Hello. In this short video, I will show you how to enable Oracle tracing for an individual client connection to Dimensions CM. This is useful for diagnosing performance issues with specific Dimensions CM operations. The steps I am about to show you apply to any Dimensions CM installation that uses an Oracle database. To start, we open Desktop Client and that will give us our process ID. Now we're connected to the desktop client, we now need to open a connection to Admin Console so we can get our process ID to query the database to enable the tracing. Now we're connected to the Admin Console, we now need to go to the Connection Pooling Statistics section under Database Management, and that will list all the active processes connected to this particular installation. As you can see, there are a number of processes here, and we are looking for the PC client process, which is Desktop Client, which is shown here. And the process ID we need is here. We can now minimize Admin Console. At this point, we can also minimize Desktop Client. The next step is to open a command prompt window and connect to SQL Plus as the sysdba user. This is a server-side operation. In this particular instance, my server is on the same machine as where I'm running my client. So we connect to SQL Plus. And then we provide the appropriate password. Right, now we are connected. We run a few queries to determine the session ID within Oracle based on the process ID from Admin Console. As a reminder, the process we are looking for is 2664. The query to run is as follows. As you can see in this query, in the where clause, we are specifying the process number 2664 as shown by Admin Console. Executing this query will return the following result. And here you can see it shows 2 sessions within the Oracle instance for this particular connection. We need to enable tracing on both of those, and this is done using the following command. Running those 2 execute statements has enabled tracing on those 2 sessions. With this complete, we can now exit from the SQL Plus session we're running and close our command prompt for the time being. Now we return to Desktop Client and we run an operation to trace. In this particular example, I will be just creating an object called a baseline. So I'm going to select my file menu and say new baseline. We'll choose the top design part because it's the only one in this particular product. And our baseline ID, we will call this all latest trace because we're testing tracing. And we'll use a baseline rule template of all items latest. That will ensure that we get a baseline created and that the baseline will actually contain some items. So I will click on create to create the baseline. This will create very quickly because we're in a very small database, so it won't give rise to any performance issues. It will just generate the trace file for us to examine after the command has been executed. The baseline is created. Now we can minimize desktop to client once again and return to our SQL Plus session. And now we need to disable the trace. Now the command to do this is almost identical to the execute statements you can see in the window here. The only difference being that the fourth number in the parentheses, the number 12, that records the trace level. Now we need to set that back to 1 to disable tracing. So we connect back to SQL Plus once again. And then we can just run those statements because we can already see the SID and serial hash of that particular entry for the session. So let's do that. With those two statements run, the tracing is now disabled for those two sessions. We can now exit from SQL Plus. The Oracle trace files are held within the Oracle installation on the server. Where these files will ultimately end up very much depends on your Oracle configuration, and your DBA will know where to locate these files. However, in this particular example, you can see here a folder directory with a number of files in it, and you can see here, this file here is our trace file. And this concludes the video on how to generate Oracle trace for an individual command.